Good morning, BookTube. This is Johnny. I'm down in the lower level. This is where most of my books are. I'd say at least, well, 85% of them. I came down here, I cannot see in these glasses anymore. My eyes are, I have to go get glasses. The other day, well, last week, I was outside feeding the birds, and I was going, there's the bird feeder, and then there's this bush, and as I was going across the bush, I scratched my glasses. So there is these scratches all over my lenses, and I have to get new glasses. And plus, I don't know, it's kind of, I don't like filming down here because of the lighting. It's really terrible. But this is where the used books are. And I told you I was going to do a video. I made a comment that today is still January the 28th, 2024. It is 11:03 late Sunday morning. I'm down the lower level. I want to get this video done because I realize that probably I'll be watching football this afternoon until tonight, and I want to get these used books put away down here. They've been stacking up over there on a bin. So I'm just going to stop talking, show you the books. There's 28 of them. I've got these over a period of, I don't know, into last year. I'm just going to show you the books. Now this book I have already, but I found a hardback of it. And at Gateway, which is a rescue mission thrift store, I found a copy. It's one of my favorite beat books. It's called When I Was Cool, My Life at the Jack Kerouac School by Sam Kashner, a memoir. I have this in paperback, and this was at Gateway. I was really surprised to find it. There's a picture of Allen Ginsberg. And yeah, it's really a great kind of memoir. And it goes into what it was like at the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poetics at Boulder, Colorado. It's one of my favorite beat books. And then I found this at Goodwill. Sea of Words, 3rd edition, a lexicon and companion to the complete seafaring tales of Patrick O'Brian, Dean King. I have those Patrick O'Brian novels down in the storage room over there, but this is the Lexicon, Sea of Words. I'll put that with that set. Yesterday, my wife and I, we went to Blue Stockings, and then we went to Salvation Army, and I found 2 books. I collect the novels of Geoffrey Wolff. This is his novel, The Fan Club. There's another one in here that I picked up too last year, Geoffrey Wolff, The Age of Consent. This is The Fan Club. The Final Club. What did I say? I said The Fan Club? The Final Club. Yeah, I collect his writings, and I found them too recently. The Age of Consent by Geoffrey Wolff. This is a first edition. I found it at Salvation Army, and it must have been somebody's private library. It has decal edge. First edition. It was published in 1990. The Final Club. And then I found this one. The Age of Consent by Geoffrey Wolff. Is this the first edition? I don't know. Let me see. 1995. Doesn't say it's the first edition. No. Anyway. So I found 2 novels by Geoffrey Wolff. I collect his writings. He's a novelist. And then I picked up at Salvation Army this novel, The South. I have this in paperback by Colum Tobin. He is an Irish writer. I collect him. Yeah, I have this in paperback. This is a nice hardback. It's a first edition. South. In the back here, it's recommended by Don DeLeo, John Bainfield, the Sunday Tribune, the Sunday Times, London. Yeah, it's in perfect condition. Looks like somebody's private library. I collect his writings. The last thing I read by Tobin was his memoir of living in Barcelona, Spain. I picked this at Blue Stockings, Blood and Ruins, The Last Imperial War, 1931 to 1945. I have two, he's a British historian, Richard Overley. I don't have all his books, but I have a couple of them in my library, which I don't, they're over there. I didn't want to take up time showing them, but I picked up this. It's called Blood and Ruins, The Last Imperial War, 1931 to 1945, by Richard Overley, author of The Bombers and the Bombed, which I've been looking for. I got this at Blue Stockings, in-store credit. I picked this up at Goodwill, Southside. Mmonan, I can't pronounce his name. He was a very famous Jewish philosopher. This is a biography by Sherwin B. Newland. Moses Maimonides was a Renaissance man before there was a Renaissance, a great physician who served as sultan, dazzling Torah scholar, a community leader, a daring philosopher whose greatest work, The Guide for the Perplexed. I had that book, and I don't know where it is. Attempted to reconcile scientific knowledge with faith in God. He was a Jew living in a Muslim world, a rationalist living in a time of superstition. 800 years after his death, his notions about God, faith, the afterlife, the Messiah still stir debate. His life as a physician and still inspires, and the enigmas of his character still fascinate. So that's a memoir. I can't pronounce his name. Biography. This is a memoir by Pat Conroy, The Winter Tide is Wide, a memoir. I had his novels and I dehauled them, but I like memoirs, and that's why I bought this. I have his book of writing up there. It's called The Reading Life by Pat Conroy, The Reading Life. This is a bunch of, this is written by a journalist, and they were written in the 50s and 60s. They're like newspaper articles or essays. His name was, it's called Sketches in the Sand by James Reston. I have his memoirs somewhere around here, but he was a journalist. This is his Sketches in the Sand, and they're just like newspaper articles or essays. And like I said, I collect writings by journalists and their diaries or memoirs. And this is Sketches in the Sand by James Reston. Like there's a section in here on Eisenhower, his articles on Eisenhower, Johnson, Kennedy's, what was going on in Russia in the 60s and the 50s, the press, politics, portraits of people. Anyway, looked interesting. I picked this up at Goodwill. This is somebody must have self-published this. Parisian Life, Adventures in the City of Light. It's written by Edith D Balleville. She is a professional tour guide of Paris, and she wrote this. It looks like self-published, but I collect books on Paris, so I got this. Parisian Life, Adventures in the City of Light. I had this novel in hardback, but I can't find it, and this was at the library the local library still sells used books, and this is a novel by Maureen Howard, The Natural History. I had this in hardback and I can't find it, but this is a novel, Natural History, a novel by Maureen Howard, author of Facts of Life. I have this in hardback. I don't know where it went. This is a used book Carol found for me, Dorothy Ling. I had this, but I can't find it. It's called The Memoirs of a Survivor by Dorothy Ling. I collect her writings, and library thing says I have this, but I can't find it, so I must have misplaced it. So this is what my wife found for me, A Memoir of a Survivor by Dorothy Ling. I got this also at the library, used book little rack. Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, Law in the Inner Self by G. Edward White. When I bought this, I collect biographies on 19th century, 20th century American figures. He was a Supreme Court justice. He also fought in the Civil War. He lived to be quite old, very famous. I read a biography of him a year ago or 2 years ago. I have this already in paperback and I didn't know it. But so this will go on the box of doubles that I'll take to Blue Stockings for in-store credit someday. I found this at Goodwill, Habsburg, Embodying Empire by Andrew Wheatcroft. This is East European history and the Habsburgs. I collect books on European history, especially 18th, 19th century. The Habsburg, Embodying the Empire. I'll buy any book on the Habsburgs. They're very fascinating dynasty. I collect the mysteries of Simenon. He was a French. He wrote these series of little mysteries. I collect these. I didn't have this one, Maigret and the Saturday Caller by Simenon. I can't pronounce them, but you've seen these in BookTube. I have a whole shelf of them. I have this in paperback, and I found this at Legacy Thrift Store. I have a paperback, and I found a nice hardback edition, The English and Their History by Robert Toombs. This is in pristine condition. Mine's a paperback. I picked up at some used book sale. I collect books on England, London, Ireland, Scotland, but mostly on English. The English and Their History by Robert Toombs. I have a memoir by this guy, James D. Houston. I found this at Legacy, Birds of Another Heaven, by a novel by, I have his memoirs somewhere. James D. Houston. He was a writer. He writes historical novels about California, Hawaii. You can see the Hawaiian figure there. See? I had this book, but I can't find it. It's a memoir called The House in France, a memoir by Gully Wells. Her father was the Oxford philosopher A.G. Ayer, A-Y-E-R. So Gully Wells takes us into the heart of London's lively, liberated intellectual inner circle of the 1960s. Here are Alan Bennett, Isaiah Berlin, Iris Murdoch, Bernard Russell, Jonathan Miller, Martin Amis, Christopher Hitchens, Robert Kennedy, Klaus Van Bolo. Later in New York, a completely different mix, Mayor John Lindsay, Mike Tyson. This goes on. It's just a memoir. I had this somewhere, but I can't find it. I like memoirs, you know that. I had this in my library and I can't find it, but I found another used copy at Goodwill, The Stones of Summer, a novel by Dow Mossman. This is came out in the 70s. It's kind of like a cult classic. I see people on BookTube show it once in a while. The Stones of Summer by Dow Mossman. I collect the writings of John Updike. I just got this. I have this already in an old beat-up paperback, but this is another paperback. The Couples by John Updike. I read this back when I was in high school. John Updike is one of my favorite writers. Saul Bellows, John Updike, Philip Roth, Gord Vidal, Norman Mailer, Joyce Carol Oates, Ann Beatty, Jim Harrison, Iris Murdoch, Edith O'Brien, people like that. I collect the writings of Pico Iyer. This is called The Man Within My Head. I found this at Goodwill. This is a kind of like Pico Iyer's. There's a picture of Graham Greene on the cover, and there's a picture of him, the writer, below. It's like his fascination with the writings of Graham Greene, who I collect. I have a whole shelf of his writings. This is like a memoir biography around Graham Greene. I had this in a small hardback. This is the Human Stain by Roth. Philip Roth. I just like this edition, so I picked it up. Mine's a paperback. This is a hardback edition of the Human Stain by Philip Roth. Mine is an old paperback, so I like a hardback edition of it, and I like the cover. This is a biography called Imperial Charade, the biography of Emperor Napoleon III and the Empress Eugenia, 19th century's Europe's most successful adventurers, by Alvin Brodsky. Can't pronounce his name. Let's see here. Yeah, I like 19th century biographies, so I picked this up. I just bought a biography of Bonaparte used from Amazon. So this is, I think he was in a family relation to Napoleon Bonaparte. This is The Creators, The History of Heroes of the Imagination by Daniel J. Burstein. I have somewhere The Discoverers by him. I have this in paperback. Excuse me, Bangkok 8 by John Burnett. I have he wrote these kind of like crime novels that take place in Bangkok, Thailand. And there's a series of them. This is the first one I have in paperback, but I found a hardback. I just like the covers. It's in perfect condition. I read 4 of his, John Burnett's series of this detective in Thailand, in Bangkok. And then lastly, I picked up this novel by the Spanish writer Javier Marzo Berta. Isa, I can't pronounce the name. This is translated out of Spanish by Margaret, Jull, Costa. I collect his novels. I have 3 or 4 other novels by him. I collect South American writers, Spanish writers, and he's one I collect. I have several of his novels. He was always, I think he's still alive. This one came out in what year was this one? Doesn't say. 2019. Yeah, my wife found the other day, she brought home a second copy of this. And she said, I didn't know if you had this. And I said, I just bought it. But I have 2 copies of it now that I'll take to in-store credit at Blue Stockings. So those are the used books from thrift stores. I go to Goodwill, Salvation Armies, Legacy Thrift Store, Gateway. I went to Blue Stockings Bookshop. That's where I get my books. And also I buy used books from Amazon, and the library, local library, still sells books on these little carts. I go in there once in a while and look around. So that's the used books. Now you know I can put these all away, find some space, some down here in the lower level the lower level library. So I hope you have a good Sunday. I hope you, if you're into football, I don't know who you'll be cheering for, but I'm cheering for whoever wins. There's got to be losers. There's winners and there's losers. It's just the way life is. So if you got any questions about these used books, I will list them below, as I always do. And yeah, so I hope you're having a good Sunday. Have a good new week. I don't know when I'll make another video. See what comes up. So I'll sign off, and until next time, and blessings. The Lord bless. May the Lord come quickly. Pray for Ukraine. Pray for the Palestinians. Pray for Israel. Pray for the world. Pray for the homeless. Pray for the orphan. Pray for those who are on the border of Mexico, United States. Those people fleeing Central America and South America. Pray for humanity. Anyway, I'm rambling again, and thank you for the new subscribers. Thank you for the comments, and I'll sign off until next time. Bye.